Hey, are you Rosie?
Hey girl.
Do you want to walk around Deming Heights Park in Northeast today?
Yeah, I would love to. So I have been in the healthcare space working in primarily hospice. Love working with people as they're preparing for and navigating end of life. But the healthcare system was getting harder and harder for me to work in. We're not talking about death until we have to. We're not planning for it at all. So then when we're in that spot, it's oftentimes very hectic, very stressful, very much feels like crisis. And so with those two pieces of like, let's stop being reactive and let's start being proactive. So I started A Better Ending that is all about helping people prepare for death and dying, helping people talk about it, and helping people navigate it once they get there. You know, we live in a death avoidance society, right? We don't have to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it. And so it's kind of like not exercising a muscle and then trying to bench press 100 pounds. Death and dying is still very hard. People are losing somebody that they love. It's heartbreaking, it's devastating, but it can be made easier. It can be beautiful. But I think that that's the biggest thing I run into is people just don't know how to navigate it. They don't even know what things are going to look like. Maybe they've never even seen somebody die before. So, you know, when we think about things that we get anxious about, we get anxious about the unknown. I can tell them what dying can look like, right? Sometimes it's more existential or spiritual, like, girl, where do our souls go after we die? I think that's the biggest, scariest one because that's the most unknown. You know, back in the early 1900s, families were exposed to death all the time. Kids grew up around it. You know, when people were sick, they were at home. Families cared for them. When the person died, sometimes they were set up in like the parlor is what they'll call it, or like a living room space. So there was kids and people around death all the time. And then the healthcare system changed. That people were dying in the hospital. And so then people weren't seeing death. It became like this avoidant thing, right? I think a shift is happening. And I think we're starting to see more of this, especially as hospice is becoming something that is more and more utilized. We are exposed to so many more hard things with the internet that I think, or maybe I'm just hopeful that we're more willing to embrace the hard. And I think there's a lot more supports to help people embrace the hard. Like having the conversations with family, you know, helping them understand what are my goals right now? What do I want my end of life to look like? And what are my wishes for after I die? You know, so many times people don't have these conversations. So then families spin because they think, well, I think this is what they want. I'm kind of guessing here. So I really help, I guess, facilitate those conversations, put things that are appropriate into documents like healthcare directives. And so I think what my role in that space is just to be that non-judgmental ear. I call it the Minnesota cheer up. So for example, Jenna, if you were to come to me and say, girl, I'm really struggling with this, I'm having a hard time sleeping, and I'm like, oh, but look at all the great things you've done. That is called the Minnesota cheer up.
Interesting.
And I think in part we do that because we're uncomfortable holding space for people that are hurting, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something I really try to do, is to be that container for people, whether it be mental health, trauma, stressful family dynamics, because that's a super real thing at end of life too, right? Secrets, any of that. I just try to be this holding container that says it's okay to tell me the hard stuff, and I won't try to dismiss it. I won't try to make you feel better because I feel uncomfortable sitting in this pain. Again, being a social worker in this space for so long, I have a great list of resources here in the Metro, from grief support to funeral planning to estate attorneys. So I think, summing it up, it's supporting people psychosocially and logistically. The best way to get in touch with me is to go to my website, which I'm sure you're going to have listed underneath there. And there's a contact link up there. It shoots an email directly to me. I'll give you a call and we'll connect to see how I can help. Instagram is, I couldn't get a better ending, so it's A.better.ending.
Perfect. Everyone for watching today's episode. Literally the day that I was editing it, I get a call from my dad to let me know that my grandma has passed away. And I thought that was so ironic that this was the episode I was literally going to be posting that day. And so it just goes to show that this is a super important topic that can impact you at any point in life. It's something none of us can escape. It's something that we all have to deal with. And I'm literally dealing with it today. So I hope that you guys support Rosie and her mission, because it's a very important one. It's a topic that we need to talk about, and it's one that is so relevant to all of us that we need to talk about. So I'm dedicating this episode to my grandma, and I hope that you're doing okay wherever you are.